Hello everyone, let's understand what is lambda function in Python and what is the use of lambda function. In our previous session, we have understood how to write a user defined function in Python. If you are not aware of it, please go through that video first before starting lambda functions. Lambda function is a small anonymous function in Python. It has to be small and it is an anonymous function. That means what? The function does not have any name. Ideally, lambda function has to be small and lambda function will not have any name. That is the reason it is anonymous function in Python. What's the syntax? We will be using a keyword called lambda. This is a keyword, that means Python interpreter has a specific meaning for this keyword. It takes collection of parameters. It can be one or more parameters. We have to use colon, and after that we will write an expression using those parameters. For an example, here I have written one concrete lambda function. If you see here, we have used lambda keyword, after that a parameter x, and after colon we are writing x into x. This is exactly same as this function. We can either define a function using def keyword, or we can write a function using lambda. There is some restriction writing lambda functions. Remember, lambda functions has to be a very small expression. We cannot use loop and conditional statements within lambda function. If you see here, ideally lambda function will not have any name. However, we can assign it into a variable or a reference to use it in our future code segment. By default, whatever expression we will write under lambda function, that will be returned. There is no need to write any return keyword under lambda function to return the result of this expression. In our later part of the session, we will code lambda functions in PyCharm and we will run them to understand in detail. When to use lambda function and why lambda function is popular in Python? There is some concept in Python called higher order function. We can tell a function is a higher order function in Python if it accepts another function as its argument, or it can return another function. Let's understand the syntax here. Function name is a function which is taking another function as its argument. We can use this function in the code segment we will be writing within the function. This function is also a syntax of higher order function. Why? Because it is returning another function from a function. In order to pass small functions within a function, we always prefer to use lambda function. Similarly, if we want to return another function from a function, it's preferable to use lambda function here. This will enhance the readability of your program. Let's go to the PyCharm IDE to see concrete examples of lambda function and higher order functions in Python. Let's first understand lambda functions in detail. After that, we will see how higher order functions can be defined and used in Python code. In case of lambda function, you have to use the keyword lambda and it will take an argument. There could be multiple arguments as well. With that argument, we are creating some expression. Remember, you don't have to write the return statement here. By default, lambda function will return the result of the expression. Here in this case, as we are passing 3, the value of x will be 3 and the result will be 9. Square is nothing but a reference variable for this lambda function. Though the lambda is anonymous function, but we can use some reference variable to use it in our Python code. The same task can be performed using normal user defined function as well. In our previous session, we have understood how to define a user defined function using def keyword. Let's understand higher order functions. This is a higher order function. Why? Because it is returning another function. Notice that I have used lambda function for return. It is more readable in how we are calling it. When we are passing 2 in that exponential function, basically value of x will be 2. When we will call this function, it will return a lambda function. Lambda function will look like this, where x will be replaced by 2. Now, next time when we pass 3 in the exp, n variable will be replaced by 3. So, basically it will evaluate 2 to the power 3, which is nothing but 8. MyMap is also a higher order function because it is taking another function as its argument. What we are doing in this function? We are passing 2 arguments here. One is the function, another is a list. Using for loop, we are iterating through all the items present in the list and transforming it based on the function we will be passing. And finally, the transformed items will be added into the return variable and we will return the return variable. So basically, return variable is also a list which will have collection of transformed items. Now, what will be the transformation? That depends on the what kind of function we are passing as an argument. If we want to double all the items present in the list, we can pass a lambda function like this, where the item will be added with itself. So it will give us the double value. The same function can be invoked with other transformation function as well. Instead of double, we can square all the values present in the list. Let's run this program and see the result. As we have discussed here, the result is 9 because it is 3 into 3 is nothing but 9. For this, the result is 8. That is what has been printed here. For this function, as we are passing lambda x plus x, that's the reason all the item will be doubled here. Whereas the same mymap function is invoked with another lambda function which makes all the items to its square value. That is what you can see it here. To summarize the session, we have understood what is lambda function and how to use it in the Python code. Mainly lambda functions are used in higher order function because in higher order functions we pass another function or sometimes we return a function from a higher order function. In such situations, we can use lambda function to make our code readable. Remember, we cannot use loop or conditional statements within a lambda function. Thanks a lot for watching this session.